Many parts need to fall into place for an elite athlete to achieve a peak performance. Apart from training itself, heat adaptation and also altitude training are important for many sports. Can we combine all three into one super camp? In today's episode, we'll explore a study that compared the responses of elite rugby players to 4 different combinations of training, heat, and altitude. Is there added fitness benefits from adding heat and/or altitude to an already intense training camp? Being an elite athlete is a 24/7 occupation. Many athletes who are not at the absolute world-class peak of their sport may still hold down jobs to support themselves on top of their training. The schedule of international competitions and travel also can leave very little room for dedicated training and preparation time. So there is the natural temptation to maximize these available training blocks. As many endurance sports like running, cycling, and rowing can take place in extreme heat, there's the need to be properly heat adapted over several weeks of gradual exposure. Heat training may also improve performance even in a temperate environment. Altitude training is also a popular way to maximize aerobic capacity for sea level competitions. So with limited time, is it possible to increase the fitness gains from a training camp by adding heat and altitude exposure? Racinais et al. In 2021 tested this on elite male rugby players during a 2-week camp. On top of rugby training, all participants did 5 sessions of endurance cycling along with 5 sessions of high-intensity sprint cycling. They did this under 4 experimental conditions. A camp condition where all cycling was done at 18 degrees Celsius and sea level. A heat condition where the endurance cycling was done at 35 degrees Celsius and at sea level. An altitude condition where the sprints were done in 18 degrees Celsius and low oxygen at the equivalent of about 3,000 meter elevation. Athletes also slept in these conditions. Finally, a heat plus altitude condition that combined endurance cycling in the heat along with sprints and sleeping at altitude. A number of fitness tests were performed before and after the 2 weeks, with the general pattern for all of them being the same. There was an improvement in all fitness tests after the training camp, regardless of experimental condition, and the level of improvement did not increase with the presence of heat, altitude, or combined heat plus altitude when compared to just the camp condition by itself. In this particular graph, we see a roughly 9% increase in cycling maximal aerobic power for all 4 groups. The addition of heat and/or altitude also did not affect either the quantity and quality of rugby training. On the positive side, heat acclimation did occur, with both the heat and heat plus altitude groups demonstrating the classic symptoms of lower core temperature, increased sweating, and reduced thermal discomfort during a heat stress test. In contrast, altitude exposure did not show any hallmark physiological signs of a positive response. For elite athletes, unfortunately, this is a case where 1 + 1 does not equal 3. Adding heat to an intense training camp can provide simultaneous heat adaptation, which is great, but it is not going to make you fitter by itself. And combining altitude exposure with intense training does not seem to have any added benefit above that from training alone. It's possible that we don't see any extra fitness gains because of a ceiling effect, where there is a limit to just how much fitness can be gained over a 2-week timeline. But it may be that athletes can't do everything all at once and need to pick their priorities for their training blocks. But above all, for both recreational and elite athletes, it appears that quality training can significantly improve your performance and should come first and foremost. Hopefully this video leaves you high on science. I'm Professor Stephen Chung, and I run the Environmental Ergonomics Lab in the Department of Kinesiology at Brock University. We post new videos on different topics in environmental physiology every Wednesday. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.